Welcome to our very first NFL mock draft. Before we get to the content, I just wanted to let you guys know that we're giving away a PlayStation 5 to a subscriber that turns on our notifications on this channel. Whether you're an old subscriber or a new subscriber, if you sub and hit that notification bell, you've officially entered for a chance for a PlayStation 5. If you want additional entries, follow us on Twitter and Instagram, because also I typically feature my followers on Instagram and Twitter in videos in content like this. Now that we got all that out of the way, break! With the first pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Jacksonville Jaguars select Trevor Lawrence, a quarterback out of Clemson. There has never been a more transcendent talent in the past 9 years to come out of the NFL Draft than Trevor Lawrence. The last time there was this much of a surefire home run at the #1 overall pick, it was Andrew Luck to the Indianapolis Colts in 2012. There's a reason why Urban Meyer decided to break into the NFL this year. He's been waiting for quite some time for the right time to jump into the NFL. And what better time to become an NFL head coach when you have the opportunity to coach probably the greatest quarterback prospect we've ever seen in the past decade. We have a video on why Trevor Lawrence is so good, and I recommend you watching that if you want to get the full idea. But to summarize it, Trevor Lawrence is the #1 pick in the NFL Draft because he has everything that you would want in a quarterback. He's 6'6", he weighs 215 pounds, he has a cannon of an arm, he has dead-eye accuracy, and he could scramble out of the pocket. He possesses the ability to potentially read NFL defenses early on in his career because he has a tremendous football IQ. And look at that hair. Tell me that doesn't say Florida to you. He's just so marketable as well. It's only a matter of time before Head & Shoulders gives this guy a call, so he could be placed in commercials with Troy Polamalu and Patrick Mahomes. Sports analysts are going to have fun potentially pitching the Urban Meyer wants to select Justin Fields narrative on dead news days, but don't buy into that. It's Trevor Lawrence at the #1 overall pick, and it's always going to be Trevor Lawrence as the #1 overall pick. With the second pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the New York Jets select Penei Sewell out of Oregon. Now, since we're not doing trades in this NFL Draft, it's very difficult to say who the Jets are going to take here because they really did a good job addressing the left tackle position last year when they selected Mekhi Becton. And once again, they're placed in a situation where they could select a remarkable offensive tackle talent in Penei Sewell. One of these players, either Sewell or Becton, will have to get placed at the right tackle position, but it's really endearing when you think about the fact that by winning one game, Sam Darnold essentially went from being replaced as the quarterback in New York to being a quarterback that's getting a brand new anchor to the offensive line. Now, to the New York Jets fans that are thinking about clicking off of this video because I didn't mock Justin Fields or Zach Wilson over here, here's the reason why. When you have a quarterback that is still on a rookie scale contract in Sam Darnold under center that you gave up multiple draft picks to move up for originally, then you should at least give him his final season to see whether he works out with this brand new head coaching staff that you hired. And Robert Saleh coming in with Mike LaFleur seems extremely promising. If you look at what LaFleur was able to do with the 49ers offense with Kyle Shanahan and what Saleh was able to do on defense, this is a front office and a head coaching staff that New York Jets fans could be excited about. And who knows, maybe Sam Darnold is the man under center for the future. And by giving him Penei Sewell, you'll be able to find that out for sure. Worst case scenario, you end up in the top 5 in next year's NFL Draft, and then you could select your QB of the future with a remarkable offensive line and a pretty good wide receiver core. With the third pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Miami Dolphins select DeVonta Smith, a wide receiver out of Alabama. Now, obviously, this isn't the most pressing need for the Miami Dolphins. They would obviously rather have Penei Sewell over here. But if Sewell's off of the board, I don't see how this pick isn't DeVonta Smith. Some people would say they would rather take Jamar Chase, but when you have a wide receiver that already has a rapport with your franchise QB, that won the Heisman, that is already known to be extremely fast, an excellent route runner with great hands and tremendous running after the catch ability, then how do you pass up with that, especially if there's already familiarity with Tua Tagovailoa? The Dolphins also spent a first-round pick on a tackle last year, so re-signing 2 tackles in a 12-month span doesn't sound really appealing if you're management. Drafting DeVonta Smith should unlock Tua Tagovailoa's game, and if it doesn't, then the Miami Dolphins may have their answer about whether Tua is their long-term future under center. With the 4th pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, I have the Atlanta Falcons selecting Micah Parsons, a linebacker out of Penn State. I understand the excitement. You're a top 5 pick in the NFL Draft this year, and you're anxious to move on from your current quarterback that's 35 years old for a brand new guy under center, or at least to develop him for the future. But that's not worth a top 5 pick in my opinion, especially when your offense has been performing really well. The Atlanta Falcons' problems have always come on the defensive side of the ball because Julio Jones, Matt Ryan, and Calvin Ridley have no problem moving the ball on offense. They just need a better defense to support them. And say if you do draft a brand new quarterback this year, what are you supposed to do with Matt Ryan's extremely inflated contract? Nobody's going to want to take him if you trade him with all the potential quarterbacks that are going to either hit free agency or are on the trade block this year. And once again, worst case scenario, if the Atlanta Falcons are truly horrible on offense, they should end up in the top 10 once again next year, and then they could draft their quarterback of the future. But I don't believe a quarterback like Justin Fields or Zach Wilson are going to be able to change much for the Atlanta Falcons, and you're better off building your defense and the pieces around your team before drafting your QB of the future to succeed Matt Ryan. If the Falcons really want a quarterback, maybe take him in the 2nd round in this year's draft, but not with the 4th overall pick. With the 5th pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, I have the Cincinnati Bengals selecting Patrick Surtain out of Alabama. Patrick Surtain II fills a huge position of need for the Cincinnati Bengals because I personally think that the defense is significantly further behind in Cincinnati than their offense. They get the best cornerback in the entire NFL Draft that has ideal length, ideal size, and a remarkable ability as a defensive playmaker on their roster. With the 6th pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Philadelphia Eagles select Jamar Chase out of LSU. Now this is where the tanking makes a lot of sense. By tanking a game on national television, the Eagles went from the number 9 pick to the number 6 pick. Jamar Chase might be the top overall wide receiver in this NFL draft class, but recency bias may favor DeVonta Smith for winning the Heisman. Jamar Chase caught 17 passes in his freshman year before absolutely exploding in 2019, displaying the ability of a top 10 prospect. And I personally believe the reason why Carson Wentz performed so horribly last year is because his best wide receiver was Travis Fulgham. What are you supposed to do with that? There are a few things in life that are certain: death, taxes, and the Philadelphia Eagles selecting a wide receiver with the number 6 overall pick after drafting JJ Arcega-Whiteside over DK Metcalf 2 years ago and drafting Jalen Reagor, aka Nelson Aguilar 2.0 last year. With the 7th pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, I have the Detroit Lions selecting Jalen Waddle out of Alabama. We saw in the national championship game that Jalen Waddle would do anything it takes to help a team win, and that's the type of player that the Lions could use in the locker room as they try to build a brand new culture that hasn't succeeded in quite some time. With the 8th pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Carolina Panthers select Zach Wilson, and this is the perfect scenario for Zach Wilson. He goes to a team that isn't necessarily over the hump yet, that is still trying to figure things out under Matt Rule, but definitely has shown some promise so far. He gets to play behind a great bridge quarterback, ironically, whose name is Teddy Bridgewater, as he tries to learn the nuances of the NFL. Zach Wilson is the biggest boomer bust prospect in this entire NFL draft, and I think his success is going to be hinging upon a NFL team being able to successfully develop him and take their time with him. So this situation for him is extremely ideal. With the 9th pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Denver Broncos select Kwity Paye, an edge rusher out of Michigan. The Broncos may decide to make Von Miller a free agent by not exercising their club option on him. And that's because he's 32 years old, has a huge salary, and has sent some controversial text messages to his girlfriend, which we have a video on. Von Miller may not be a Bronco next year, and if so, that means that another edge rusher might be needed. Now, the top edge rusher in this year's NFL draft is a huge question mark. Some people think it's Greg Rousseau, some people think it's the man that replaced Greg Rousseau and Jalen Phillips, and some people think it's Payet. Either way, that's who I expect the Denver Broncos to be targeting this year, and as they hope to give Drew Lock one more year to develop under a brand new regime. With the 10th pick in the 2021 NFL draft, the Dallas Cowboys select Caleb Farley, a cornerback out of Virginia Tech. Last year, the Dallas Cowboys lost Byron Jones, and their secondary was subsequently the worst in the NFL in 2020. Trevon Diggs was decent, but he still needs some time to develop. Farley is a physical corner with good length and route mirroring ability. The amount of tape that we've seen on him is fairly limited, but he does have tremendous potential to be a remarkable cornerback in the NFL, and Dan Quinn could use as many weapons as he possibly can during his first year as the brand new defensive coordinator for the Dallas Cowboys. With the 11th pick in the 2021 NFL draft, the New York Giants select Kyle Pitts, a tight end out of Florida. As Daniel Jones enters year 3, the New York Giants need to find him a go-to weapon. Pitts is much more than just a tight end. He's a versatile offensive weapon who can play outside, in the slot, or in line, and is a matchup nightmare. He has the ability to win one-on-one matchups, which makes him an elite prospect and one who can help elevate what was a lackluster New York Giants passing game. The Giants clearly have their head coach of the future in Joe Judge, and now they get a tight end who isn't necessarily a tight end. With Kyle Pitts and Evan Ingram, the Giants could also utilize a potent 2 tight end attack, which would really help Daniel Jones. He's too fast for linebackers and he's too big for safeties, which makes him perfect at the number 11 spot. With the 12th pick in the 2021 NFL draft, the San Francisco 49ers select Justin Fields out of Ohio State. Justin Fields would just be terrifying in a Kyle Shanahan offense. It's not an offense where he'd be asked to do too much, but it's an offense that is so good that it would utilize his ability to scramble out of the pocket and make plays with his legs, in addition to his ability to make tremendous throws. It's literally the perfect system for him, and I am terrified of imagining what he can accomplish in there. As for Jimmy Garoppolo, he still could be the starter during his first year back under center for the San Francisco 49ers, and the good thing about Jimmy Garoppolo's contract is it's quite possibly one of the best quarterback contracts in the entire NFL, and it's also set to expire after the 2022 NFL season, which gives Justin Fields ample opportunity to back up Jimmy Garoppolo as he tries to learn the extremely complicated Kyle Shanahan offense, just as Jimmy Garoppolo did when he was first traded to San Francisco. With the 13th pick in the 2021 NFL draft, the Los Angeles Chargers select Samuel COSMI, an offensive tackle out of Texas. This one's really simple, so we're not going to jump too much into the analysis, but the Chargers have a remarkable offense. They have Justin Herbert, who's clearly their future under center. They have Austin Eckler. They have a remarkable wide receiver core that features Mike Williams and Keenan Allen. They have an amazing defense with the likes of Joey Bosa and Derwin James anchoring it. All they need to do now is focus on protecting Justin Herbert in the future, and they do that with this pick. With the 14th pick in the 2021 NFL draft, the Minnesota Vikings select Rashawn Slater, an offensive tackle out of Northwestern. If you look at some of Rashawn Slater's tape, you would see that he was able to actually hold his own against Chase Young, last year's number 2 overall pick. The Minnesota Vikings' entire success is based upon their ability to establish the run game and play action, and the more time they could buy for Kirk Cousins and the wider those running lanes that they could form for Dalvin Cook, the better. With the 15th pick in the 2021 NFL draft, the New England Patriots select Trey Lance out of North Dakota State. Bill Belichick needs to solve his quarterback problem, and he didn't draft a quarterback last year, so he has to this April, and you're not fooling anyone. No one thinks that Jarrett Stidham is the answer for the future. We have a great video on Trey Lance if you're not familiar with him, but for the most part, he has a tremendous physical profile for a quarterback, and he's coming off of a huge year in 2019, although due to recency bias, they didn't really get an opportunity to watch him this year, so he may have taken a little bit of a stumble in the draft rankings. Nevertheless, he was a remarkable prospect coming out of North Dakota State, and under the right right tutelage, he could become a great QB in this league. With the 16th pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Arizona Cardinals select Christian Darrisaw, an offensive tackle out of Virginia Tech. Kyler Murray was remarkable last season, and as he enters year 3, we have to think more and more about his size and our ability to protect him under center. The Cardinals could also go defense here, but I would make protecting Kyler Murray the focal point of this year's offseason, because one wrong hit or one major hit on that tiny body could completely ruin his career. With the 17th pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, I have the Las Vegas Raiders selecting Joseph Osai, an edge rusher out of Texas. The Raiders' entire defense needs help, and this includes the front, which doesn't generate very much pressure on opposing quarterbacks. At the point of this mock draft, once again, the edge rusher position has a lot of question marks in this year's NFL Draft, so we're going to assume that the Raiders like Joseph Osai over here, and they're going to select him over Gregory Rousseau. With the 18th pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Miami Dolphins select Gregory Rousseau, an edge rusher out of Miami. It's really strange because a couple of months ago, I had Greg Rousseau as quite possibly the 5th overall pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, but due to a lack of tape and due to the fact that he was able to be succeeded by Jalen Phillips so easily, it's very hard to determine where he's going to go in this year's NFL Draft. He wasn't nearly as dominant as Chase Young was during his season in Ohio State, and while a part of me believes this is very late for Greg Rousseau, he is a major boomer bust prospect whether we want to admit it or not. Possibly after the NFL Draft Combine, we'll get some more information as to where he's going to go, but for now, the Miami Dolphins get a potential steal at the 18th pick in the 2021 NFL Draft. With the 19th pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Washington Football Team selects J.C. Horn, a cornerback out of South Carolina. The Washington Football Team have a brand new identity, and that is a defense that can suffocate opposing teams, captained by Riverboat Ron Rivera. Last year, they selected a completely culture-shifting edge rusher in Chase Young, and this year they look to their defensive back for some improvement. J.C. Horn has top 15 pick potential, but the Washington Football Team get a potential steal at the number 19 spot. With the 20th pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Chicago Bears select Elijah Vera Tucker, an interior offensive lineman out of USC. The Bears have incredible problems on their offensive line, and if they can't address quarterback in the first round, they might as well do whatever it takes to protect their future quarterback, whether that's Mitch Trubisky or anyone else that they decide to draft. With the 21st pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Indianapolis Colts select Rashod Bateman, a wide receiver out of Minnesota. Last year, it seemed very difficult for Phillip Rivers to find a wide open target down the field. Towards the end of the season, he was finding T.Y. Hilton more consistently, but prior to that, it was clear that he was struggling to find anyone open, so finding a wide receiver that does possess the route running ability that Rashod Bateman does could potentially help any QB that the Indianapolis Colts decide to move forward with down the future. With the 22nd pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Tennessee Titans select Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, a linebacker out of Notre Dame. The Tennessee Titans actually have one of the most complete teams in football, and while they could potentially go wide receiver over here, the only hole that I could really see on this entire team is on the defensive side of the ball. They could definitely use some help at the linebacker position, and Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah does give them that exactly. The Titans also don't have much of a pass rush, and Jadeveon Clowney, whether he comes back or not, isn't necessarily known as a sack master. With the 23rd pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the New York Jets select ZAVEN Collins, a linebacker out of Tulsa. The New York Jets actually have a fairly decent pass rush, believe it or not, and now that they have Bob Saleh as their head coach, this pick could potentially give them a terrifying pass rush down the line. Collins has improved tremendously as a junior, which is nice because his conference almost didn't play football this year. With the 24th pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Pittsburgh Steelers select Jalen Mayfield, an offensive tackle out of Michigan. The Steelers have several offensive linemen that are about to hit free agency, so they could definitely address the position with this pick. Besides that, they could potentially go quarterback here, but I also don't believe in drafting project QBs anymore at this point of the draft because I think all the best project quarterbacks are off of the board. With the 25th pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Jacksonville Jaguars select Alex Leatherwood, an offensive tackle out of Alabama. Now, when I first did my mock draft a couple months ago, it was before James Robinson burst onto the scene. Now that the Jacksonville Jaguars have a good running back, I could not see them making a pick like Travis Etienne over here. Rather, they did draft the most transcendent talent in the past decade in Trevor Lawrence, and they need to do whatever it takes to make sure that they don't repeat the Indianapolis Colts mistake, where they drafted Andrew Luck and gave him absolutely no pass protection until it was too late. They need to protect Trevor Lawrence as much as they can to make sure he doesn't get forced into an early retirement. With the 26th pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Cleveland Browns select Nick Bolton, a linebacker out of Missouri. The Cleveland Browns roster is coming together very nicely. After drafting Myles Garrett and Denzel Ward, in addition to having players like Sheldon Richardson and Adrian Claiborne on the roster, it's time that the Cleveland Browns look to replace players like Jacob Phillips and BJ Goodson at the linebacker position in this draft. The Cleveland Browns are really close to being an absolute juggernaut in the NFL, and I believe their offensive miscues have been solved with Kevin Stefanski's run scheme. Now it's time that they look towards the defensive side of the ball to complement their running game. With the 27th pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Baltimore Ravens select Terrace Marshall, a wide receiver out of LSU. Many Ravens fans know that the Ravens could use as much wide receiver help as they possibly can because having Marquise Hollywood Brown and a post-Achilles tear Dez Bryant at the wide receiver position does limit the Baltimore Ravens in some ways. With the 28th pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the New Orleans Saints select Eric Stokes, a cornerback out of Georgia. The Saints could easily go wide receiver over here, but whenever I have a remarkable running back talent and a good offensive head coach, I try to make sure that the defense is as good as possible to complement that offense and the ability to control the clock during games. Eric Stokes gives Marshawn Lattimore the complement that the Saints desperately need because their secondary was absolutely decimated by Tom Brady this year. With the 29th pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers select Azeez Ojulari, an edge rusher out of Georgia. The Buccaneers actually have a remarkable defensive line that ranked first in pass rush this past year. But as good as Jason Pierre-Paul, Shaq Barrett, and Ndamukong Suh are, there is one thing that they definitely are, and that's kind of old. It's good to get some nice rotational youth at the pass rushing position for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers if they want to continue having the top pass rush in the NFL. With the 30th pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, I have the Buffalo Bills selecting Liam Eichenberg, an offensive tackle out of Notre Dame. The Buffalo Bills have a remarkable offense. They're truly developing Josh Allen at a rapid rate. Now it's time to protect their brand new franchise QB as much as they possibly can. With the 31st pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Green Bay Packers select KADARIUS Toney, a wide receiver out of Florida. The Packers finally reward Aaron Rodgers by giving him the wide receiver that he deserves with a first-round pick. Not necessarily the biggest need for the Green Bay Packers, but number 12 deserves it after the MVP season he had. With the 32nd pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Kansas City Chiefs select Deonthe Brown, an offensive lineman out of the University of Alabama. Despite their meltdown in the Super Bowl, believe it or not, I still think the Kansas City Chiefs are the most complete team in the NFL. And the only thing that really screwed them over in the Super Bowl was their lack of offensive line depth. I feel like if they had a fully healthy offensive line, they would have at least scratched the scoreboard, but in this case, they addressed the one thing that got in the way of their success in the Super Bowl. Now, I know what a bunch of you guys might be thinking. What about Najee Harris and Travis Etienne? I personally find the running back to be a fairly secondary position, especially given how big contract running backs have been performing recently. So I believe those two players are second-round picks. But let me know if there are any picks that you disagree with in this mock draft, and I'll integrate your comments in our next mock draft. Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike, and I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.